Hey guys, for this video, we're kind of going to be tackling this little color correction. However, we're not going to be removing a whole bunch of color. So to see how we went about this service, keep watching. You guys can follow me over on Instagram at Christy@the-cottage. Here's my client's before, and she's sitting with about 2 inches of grow out at an ashy level 5. Okay, so the client that I'm working on right now, a lot of people have asked me about color corrections, and I feel like that's kind of tricky because no color correction is the same. But the color that I'm doing today, she has, naturally her hair is probably like a level 4 or 5 ash. And then she put some dark color on her hair, so her roots are probably like, you know, to there, and then it's all like a level 2 through her ends. She put like black on her hair, dark brown, I'm not sure. So and what she was on top of that before was a blonde. So I told her that before we do anything with the service, that I would want to do a strand test to make sure that we're being really cautious of the health of the hair. That will kind of give us an idea on what the hair is going to do as it lifts. Is it going to lift nicely? Is it going to lift to like an orange or a red? Is it going to lift at all? Is it going to lift to like a really nice blonde? We don't really know what the hair is ever going to do. Is it going to be really damaged and frazzled, or is it going to be nice and healthy still? So that's why I always recommend doing a strand test, just because it will kind of give you and your client an idea of what's going to happen with their hair, and it will kind of help you decide what you want to do going forward with the service. So we did her strand test, and I do my strand test the same as I would do it if we were actually doing the service. So we did some like 25 volume with the Schwarzkopf Blonde Me and Olaplex, and I let it sit. I kind of blasted it with some heat a few times, and I let it process for probably like 20 minutes or so. And let me show you what the results were from that strand test. So here's her strand test, and you can kind of see that it's very orange. It has a lot of red in it actually still. It didn't lift as much as I thought it was going to. Or yeah, I thought it was going to lift a little bit more, but it actually didn't. So this little piece right here, it feels a little bit stronger than what this piece was. This one was definitely, as I pulled it, kind of breaking apart. Like if I, you know, pulled on it where normally the hair would stretch a little bit, this was definitely like feeling a little bit more frazzled. And this one, I could pull a little bit harder on it and nothing really happened too much. So, I showed her this color, and I just told her, knowing that this is what your hair will lift to, I don't recommend, you know, trying to remove all of the color in your hair, because then you're going to be stuck with orange. So I told her, I know that we're trying to lift your hair to match your natural color, but one thing to keep in mind, and I literally explained every possible outcome and what to expect and what's going to happen, as I think we should with every client, because yeah, we can do the service and see what it comes to, especially with the color correction. I feel like we always kind of go into it being more like, we can do it, we don't know where we're going to end up at, so but we'll just do it though. And I think we really need to do better at like explaining to clients, like really sit down with them and talk to them about what this potentially could really be. Because we can say we can tone the hair down to make it more of like a nicer brown or a warm brown, but the truth is a toner is probably going to fade out in like 3 weeks, and they're going to have to keep coming in every three weeks to keep re-glossing their hair, retoning their hair. And is that really something that they want to battle? So I told her that I know what you want to do is to have more of an ashy color, because I've had my hair really dark before, like almost blue black, and I loved it. Oh, so pretty. But my hair is naturally kind of like an ashy light brown, and so one thing that really drove me crazy is that as my hair was growing out, you could see like the ashiness here, even though my hair was darker.
versus like the richness of like the dark brown color here. And so that always drove me crazy. Even though nobody else could probably see it, like I could always see it. And I told her that think about how much this bothers you from like just being able to see a little bit of your natural. And honestly, her hair really is only like a shade or not even much. Like I have to really look for it to see where her natural hair is. And so I told her, is this gonna bother you, or is lightening all of your hair where the dark is from here down and having all of this constantly be fighting the orange, is that gonna bother you more? Because this at least looks pretty what we're at right now, but like, you know, over time, is she gonna want to have to keep coming in over and over and over again to keep toning down the brassiness? So explain that kind of stuff to your clients, because I think if they know that kind of stuff, then that will help them decide what they want to do going forward. And I told her that we could probably just do like a partial balayage and see what it does. Sometimes when you're doing a color correction, depending on, you know, especially if the hair is really dark and you don't know what's going to happen or how safe the hair is going to lift, sometimes I'm really big on just doing a few little pieces and seeing what it does and working with that versus lightening the whole head and now you're stuck with all of this orange. At least if you do like a partial balayage or something like that, you're just adding a little bit of dimension to the hair, you're brightening it up a little bit, and they can work with that a little bit better because now it just looks like you're blending like a warm brown balayage with like the dark hair versus orange. So what we decided to do, I gave her the options. I showed her the hair. She kind of felt it herself, saw what it lifts to. I also told her that because I had this on another client where we balayaged her hair, but because she had so much buildup of dark in her hair, it didn't even lift it at all, which I was shocked at. And I told her because that only, her strand test only lifted probably like 2 shades lighter, that I don't want to put it in insulation or foil because I don't want it to be too strong of a lift and potentially damage her hair. So I would do more of like an open air balayage. And I told her because of that, it's going to get even less lift than what that did. So she might not even really be able to see a difference when we do her hair today. And I told her, if that happens, are you going to be okay? Just because I don't know what it's going to do as we lift it. So she's okay with that. She understands. I explained everything. So right now we're going to mix our lightener. Same thing. The Schwarzkopf Blonde Me with Olaplex. And we're just going to go through and paint some panels. I told her that we could just kind of paint, you know, kind of around her face. So at least she feels, you know, some sort of difference there. So we're just going to go through and do a little bit of a balayage and see what happens.
I know I said I was going to mix the same as when I did her strand test, but I am actually going to insulate it. I know I said I wasn't going to. So instead of using 25 volume, I'm just going to go through with 20 volume. And that way I can keep a better eye on it. And to start her off, I'm going to start at her hairline up here because she definitely wanted to see some difference no matter how subtle it is. I feel like if we at least get something right at the front of the face and focus kind of around the facial framing areas, if we can at least get that some level of brightness or a little bit of dimension at least, then hopefully she'll leave here satisfied with at least feeling like we accomplished something. So we're not going to do like the heavy foil that we normally do around the hairline, where we like line the whole face with highlights or anything, just because I know that her roots are going to lift really good and I really don't know what's going to happen with the ends of her hair. So we're not trying to go into her roots or anything. We're not trying to highlight heavily around the face. We're just trying to bring some dimension to her hair to give it a little bit more life. And so we're going to start here with her facial framing area and her quote unquote money piece. And we're just going to do this little panel right here, right on her face, try to brighten it up a little bit. I know we're not, when I say bright, I know we're not going to be blonde. I know we're not even going to be a light caramel or anything. I just mean like, you know, try to give it at least some lift. So now that we're off of her face, I'm just going to take a few panels. I'm not really too worried about where her part is or anything because I'm just going to grab some hair around her face and we're going to back comb it, weave it. That way it blends really nicely. And we're just going to bring it up probably to match where the lightness would fall with where that foil is around her hairline right there. So she's still going to have a few inches before she's going to notice any dimension. So we're just going to go through, and honestly, I'm really probably only going to do about maybe 3 or 4 panels on each side. I'm not doing a whole bunch just because I told her, because she was like, oh, you could do a little bit more. And I'm like, I really don't want to, just because how her hair was a little weak and I don't want it to sit in the foils for too long or anything. So I just really want to put a few foils in here. This will kind of give us an idea on what her hair is going to do, and we can always base our next appointment from this service. So I'm just going to go on with the rest of this application, and I'm just going to do basically the same on either side, like these 3 to 4 panels on either side, just kind of to give a little bit of dimension and some pieciness. So I'm not doing it to be super like big and chunky or anything. I just want to be able to see like some kind of dimension flowing through the hair. So I'm going to do like a weaved foil kind of closer to her face, do another weaved, like a little bit of her natural, let it kind of hang out, and then do another weaved foil like at the same, like right off of her part from there. And then I'm going to go underneath these little sections and just do like one panel, and then I'm going to grab the ends of her hair and do that whole section there. That way, hopefully, like the whole front hairline pieces are a little bit brighter and give her more dimension. So I'm just letting you know what I'm going to do through the service while I go off and talk, because y'all know how I like to ramble. You know how I do. So I'm just trying to give you guys a heads up on what I'm going to be doing with the service. So I explained to her, and I really want to start implementing getting a waiver for clients to sign when it comes to services like this. When she and I started the service, we were talking literally for about 45 minutes before we actually got to the service, because I wanted to make sure I sat down with her and explained to her in as much detail as possible, telling her every single potential outcome that would come with her hair, and not even just like, oh, it's $100 an hour for a color correction, because we don't know what we're going to have to do. I don't really want to tackle it this way. I know that we could always just try to remove all the color and see what happens or whatever. But like, my goal is for her to leave the salon liking her hair and being happy with her hair, and not being unhappy with her hair for like the next few months, as we're trying to reach the goal that she wants, which is like an ashy blonde. Like, I'm trying to tell her and explain to her that we need to be realistic about the service. You have block on your hair. You were completely really blonde before then. And realistically, you're not going to get there safely without damage, or without having to cut a lot of hair off, or without having a lot of red or orange undertones. So, and I explained to her a service that I did where I was doing a color correction, and I've explained this to you guys. I talked about it on my live. I talked about it on my Instagram before, where I had a color correction that I had to do, and I asked the girl, what have you hated the most about your hair? And she said when it was orange. And I told her, I can tell you right now, we're going to lift your hair and it's going to be orange. And I want to let you know that ahead of time, because I don't want to do the service and you're going to be unhappy. So we can either do a few panels, see what it's going to do, or just, if you are okay with it, we can go on with the service. And she's like, oh no, I don't think it's going to be orange. I think it's going to be blonde. I think it's going to be okay. Let's just do it. So we literally did her whole head. And like I said, it turned orange and the client was pissed. And I had spent like 4 to 6 hours on her hair. And at that point, I I feel bad when a client is not happy with their hair. So then I felt like I couldn't charge her the price that I had quoted her. So I only ended up charging her like $250 versus, $400 or $500 because she's not happy with her hair. And I knew she wasn't going to be happy with her hair. I knew it was going to be orange, but I still went forward with the service. And I'm kind of getting to this place, which is exactly why I'm tackling the service today like I'm doing it, because I don't want to go through and remove the color. I don't want to try to do a full service and try to remove all of the color in her hair, knowing that it's going to be orange and knowing that she's going to be unhappy. And then now I feel bad. I feel like I can't charge the full service anymore. So I feel like I'm trying to look at color corrections in a different way and trying to go about them in a different way where maybe we're not correcting the color 100%, but maybe we're just taking little baby steps and making it better. It's still a color correction. We're still trying to improve the color that's there and try to help the client feel better about their hair, but I feel like I need to start going about it in a way where I'm being realistic, where they're not going to leave the salon unhappy and feeling like they have to keep coming back 3 or 4 times and trying to battle this orange spot that we're going to stain for a long time, and something that's going to be extremely high maintenance for them because they're going to have to keep coming back to put a gloss on their hair or whatever. So I feel like I would rather tackle something this way and just do a few foils and give them something that they can live with and blend with versus something that they're going to hate and try to live through and be stuck at this brassy stage for like the rest of their life until their hair grows out. So I don't know if you guys feel the same way. I just feel like it's a different way to tackle a color correction and to be realistic to clients, because honestly, they don't really know what to expect when they come in. And I don't know that a color remover really does anything different. Like, I've done a color remover, color removers before, and they haven't been remarkable, or sometimes they leave the hair even more frazzled. So why would I want to use a color remover on the whole head? So I don't know. Everybody does things differently. This is how I'm tackling this service. And I just recommend you guys to have an extremely in-depth conversation with your clients and explain everything and let them know what the possibility is for every potential outcome so that they fully understand and cannot come back to you and say, I'm unhappy, or act like they're unhappy because they weren't aware that this was going to happen potentially. So I really, if you guys, I want to have like a waiver that I can write up and they can sign, where I can write down what we talked about. Not just something for them to sign where it's like, I understand, blah, 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 if I have a chemical reaction or whatever. I don't want that. I want something where I write down everything that we talked about. I told you it was going to be orange. I told you there's potential damage. I told you it might not lift, whatever. You're still going to be brassy. You're still going to have to come back in tone. We're not going to be blonde. Like, I want to have something where I can write all that stuff down, that they have to sign it and acknowledge that, yes, I did explain all of this stuff to you. Because I just encountered this with a client where I explained to her, okay, if we do balayage in your hair because your hair is dark, it's going to be really orange. And then she called me back and said that she wanted it to be like, she wanted it fixed. And she kind of was like, she didn't ask if she was going to have to pay for it, but I felt bad and I knew that's what she was getting at. So I just told her I'd pop a few foils in there for her just to try to brighten up a few pieces. Literally 5 foils, that's it. I'm not trying to do the whole thing for free since I explain everything to you. And she kept saying like, oh, I didn't know that. When I was explaining everything to her, like, yes, this is why when I told you, before when we were doing your service, this was going to happen. Oh, I didn't know that. And I kept thinking like, yes, you did know that. Like, I told you that. So having a slip like that where you can write everything down and they have to acknowledge it and sign it will prevent that from happening, so that clients can no longer say, oh, I didn't know that was going to happen, or, oh, I didn't know that could happen, or that's what was going to happen, or whatever. Because it's like, we talked to you about this. Yes, you do know what's going to happen. Yes, we did talk about this. So don't say. And I told her, I'm like, well, that's why I said that's what was going to happen. And I make sure to tell them, like, yes, we did talk about this. Yes, I did explain this to you. So I feel like everything is about knowledge and just explaining everything to the clients, because yes, there's times where you can take a dark hair client and get her to platinum blonde, but it's a few and far between where somebody comes in with black dye and you can remove it perfectly and get them nice and blonde or whatever their hair is. And another thing is, don't think if you lighten your client's hair for it to prevent from fading if you use a toner. Don't think that you can go through with a permanent hair color, because permanent hair color does not last forever. All it does is it permanently rearranges the hair molecules, versus like a semi-permanent color like it doesn't. So that's why it's called permanent color. That should be obvious, but like I learned that through a color class. I was like, oh, that sounds so, like, I didn't realize that was the reason. And I know that's probably a dumbass thing to say, but permanent color is going to fade out too. It's not like a permanent color. It's not going to last forever. So permanent color to cover over brassiness is not always the solution. So rant over. You guys know I always go off, but here we are pulling the color out, and you can see that she really didn't get too much lift.
Okay, so I just got done washing my client out, and she's probably stuck at like a level 5, very like orange red. And so we're gonna tone her, and she knows that she's gonna have a lot of warmth in her undertone. So, and she's okay with having like a chocolatey or brown color. That'll be pretty. So I think instead of trying to fight it and cancel the warmth out with like a level, with like an ash, I think I'm gonna go in with like a level 5. And then maybe just a little bit of an ash to it, just to try to cool it down a little bit so it's not super like overly brassy or anything. Just to tone it down a little bit, but still, you know, it's gonna be warm, but I'm not trying to make it like super ashy, because then it's just gonna be a fight that's constant. So I'm gonna go through with the Agora Vibrance 5 and just like 3/4 5, and then just like a 1/4 5/1. And then I'm gonna mix with the processing solution, the 6 ball. So we're going to mix for that right now and then go tone her.
So here she is towel dried, and we're gonna run some serum through her hair to give her some heat protectant. And you can kind of see when the light hits her hair, some of those highlights right in there. So they didn't get too light, but just subtle enough that it's going to break up her hair and give her a little bit of dimension, which honestly is all we really wanted to ask for. We knew we weren't going to get super light or anything. So just breaking up her hair a little bit, giving her dimension, I feel like was perfect for our first service.
there's a soft, subtle.
Yeah, it does. I can see it. Especially in the light, I'm sure you can see it.
I like it. Just kind of breaks it up a little bit.
Here's her before again, and the indoor lighting kind of makes her grout look a little bit more harsh than what it was in reality. So here's the after, and we were both really happy with her hair. I love that color. I think it just perfectly broken up that darkness that she had, and it just kind of gives her a lot of nice dimension. She was actually really pleased with her hair. She had another appointment that she ended up wanting to cancel because she was so happy with her hair. She felt like she could go a long time until after she had her baby with this color and not feel like she needs to come in again anytime soon. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you learned something. Don't forget to like and subscribe.